Our speaker today is Rob Allen. Around the church, Rob is best known for his musical work, but he has also co-led the U2C3 tabletop game group for over 2 years. Entering the realm of tabletop role-playing games in high school, he now has thousands of hours of questing with friends under his belt. Beyond D&D, he is also an avid Magic the Gathering player, Pokemon collector, and fantasy footballer. Please welcome Rob Allen.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Well, again, I am Rob Allen, typically your music director, but today serving as your dungeon master. I assume that most of you know me for my passion for music, but today I will be talking about my second passion, which is gaming. I started playing tabletop games when I was in high school, and I have been fortunate enough to have made a network of friends who share this hobby. While my experiences with these games have been largely positive, before my time, these games were stigmatized by the general public. Moral panics are nothing new and to the performative pearl clutchers of our society. And the satanic panic of the 1980s ignited a decades-long battle over censorship and First Amendment rights that we can still see the impacts of today. From the dingy basements to the mainstream, this morning I will be talking about Dungeons & Dragons, the media whirlwind that brought it into prominence, and how a game once labeled a satanic cult has brought over 50 million players together for the last half century. A brief disclaimer before I get into this. While I may be talking about a game, the real life circumstances that surrounded it in the early days were pretty dark. This sermon will include themes of both self-harm and religious abuse. But before I get into today's little history lesson, I want to talk a little bit about what the game actually is. So Dungeons & Dragons is a tabletop role-playing game based around high fantasy, or typically based around high fantasy. When you're thinking that, think Lord of the Rings, that kind of stuff. Most playgroups establish a campaign in which sessions are played out episodically and can tell continuous stories spanning multiple years. A core mechanic of the game centers around character creation, where players use guidelines written into the game's rules to customize a character to use within the game. Characters can be just about anything you can think of, from elves and dwarves to wizards and barbarians. And these days, there's even aliens and robots and all sorts of cool stuff. If you can dream it, you can do it. Somebody has probably written a rule for it. Characters are tracked on dedicated sheets. These are the game pieces that we use in our typical sessions. And our characters are tracked on sheets that look like this, that have our different stats down the sides, give us an idea of what the character can do. Each session is run by what is known as the dungeon master, dungeon or game master, whose role it is to set the scene, control the different encounters, and essentially plays everybody that is not one of the player characters. There are a multitude of resource books that are used to track the rules. The main three being the Dungeon Master's Guide, the definitive rule book to run the sessions, the Player's Handbook, which has all the rules for making characters, and the Monster Manual, which has all of the encounters in them. Adherence to these rules really varies from group to group, with hardcore players following them to the T, and then other groups that enjoy a more laid-back experience. So I already showed you the figures. but we can also use set pieces. Sessions can involve intricate maps and figurines. Some of the common ways of tracking the board aspects are whiteboards, graph papers. We've been using a whiteboard for our sessions here at the church, but people spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on stuff like this. Not necessary for us. A turn order is established by rolling at the beginning of an encounter, and the Dungeon Master will keep track of whose turn it is, whose turn it is to make an action within the game. When a player attacks, they must roll both to hit their target and roll to deal an amount of damage to them. So that's kind of the basics out of the way. Allow me to set the scene. On August 15th, 1979, James Dallas Egbert III, a 16-year-old student at the University of Michigan, disappears from his dorm room after writing a suicide letter. Driven into depression due to the pressures of the rigorous college work and struggles with substance abuse, the young tech prodigy had decided to end his life in a network of steam tunnels located under the school. However, his attempt was unsuccessful, and after waking up the next day from a Quaalude overdose, he chose to go into hiding, run away from his parents instead of facing the repercussions of his actions. So it took about a week for the school to let his parents know, but they got in contact with a private detective William Deere from Frisco, Texas. He went up to University of Michigan, did some digging, and it didn't take long for him to find evidence that James was an avid role player. A corkboard in his room with multicolored push pins in it. Deere was able to link to a map of the school and discerned that this corkboard showed the steam tunnels in which James had disappeared into. But it was also where his friends would play their Dungeons and Dragons sessions. So Deere published this to the media. This alleged connection between Dungeons and Dragons and the disappearance was publicized and quickly sensationalized by the media. Stories ran nationwide linking the game to satanic cults, occult rituals, human sacrifices. These stories really took over the headlines for the next few weeks. But Deere's investigation would end relatively soon. James was tracked down to Louisiana. It only took him about a month. James Egbert handed himself over to William Deere, who took him back to his parents' house in Dayton, Ohio. Unfortunately, James Egbert would pass away due to a self-inflicted gunshot wound on August 16th, 1980, 1 year and 1 day after his initial disappearance. While his parents would point the finger at the games, it was clear that there were deeper needs that were being unmet. But unbeknownst to Detective Deere, all he had really done was lift this niche hobby to a national stage. While suburban moms were frothing at the mouth over the games, their children were being introduced to it by the loudest games that had been opposing it. In the month that Egbert was missing, sales of the game skyrocketed from around 300,000 total sales into the millions. While the game was already popular with the nerd crowds at high schools and universities, the game was now being adopted by metalheads, reefers, and anyone else looking to buck the status quo. It was cool. It was the new fad. Not really. But someone particularly baffled by these accusations levied towards the game was Gary Gygax, who was a practicing Christian and happened to be the creator of Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, sorry, I missed a slide. That's William Deere up there on the left. This is Gary. So around this time, he is quoted as saying, "Even the most outspoken of the critics must admit that long before we had print and film media to spread the word, mankind was engaged in all forms of cruel and despicable behavior. To attribute war, killing, and violence to film, TV, and role-playing games is to fly in the face of thousands of years of recorded history." Gygax had based D&D on earlier war game settings. There were several popular ones in the 50s and 60s, but they were very, very complex. And Gary Gygax and his partner, Dave Arneson, boiled down some of the rules to make it a little bit more accessible. Establishing tactical rules studies, or TSR, they would go on to inspire countless of adventures in the coming years. Through the early 80s, there was a rush to create anti-D&D media. One of the most prominent of these pieces is the book Mazes and Monsters from 1981, a book following a group of troubled teens that lose themselves to their self-created world. Later released as a film featuring a young Tom Hanks in 1982, this movie paved the way for similar media. Playing the main character Robbie, the film portrays him becoming more and more obsessed with the game and eventually leading him to a rooftop, claiming that he has a flying spell and is about to jump off. That is him. But I have a spell. I have a flying spell. Yeah, it's nonsense. Real quick, hey, Nick, you've been playing D&D for a long time at this point. Have you ever tried to jump off a building?
No comment. No, I haven't.
Yeah. I meant in regards to Dungeons and Dragons, not your Miami Dolphins.
70 points.
The rest of the group eventually talks him down, and they quit playing as they have learned a lesson. Another one that I want to talk about is called Dark Dungeons. In 1984, this was published by a guy named Jack Chick. So Chick Tracts were a series of Christian comic books that railed against anything and everything, from rock and roll music to wearing makeup to homosexuality and any other religious group. In particular, this entry also portrays the players as obsessed cultists. Literally, you can see our main character joining a satanic cult. They don't really do a whole lot with it. They have this vague, dark agenda. It's silly. Jack Chick didn't know anything. By the end, our main character has again given up D&D, burned all of her D&D supplies, and has given her life to God. A theme that is common in these anti-RPG medias. While these misguided attempts to shed negative light on the game would serve in continuing the stigma around it, this situation would quickly start spiraling out of control. On June 9th of 1982, high school student Irving Lee Pulling II would take his life. Irving, age 17, at the time of his death, was an honor student and active member of his high school's Dungeons and Dragons club. His mother, Pat Pulling, would blame the game and would levy a wrongful death suit against his high school's principal for allowing the game on campus, and later TSR, the publisher of the game. While these would eventually be thrown out in court, nothing ever came of these lawsuits. This only cranked up the heat on the pressure cooker. Pulling would found an organization called Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons, or BAD. Why do all these concerned parent groups have such terrible acronyms? BAD would be formed in 1983 with the intention of having the game banned across the country. With the influence of Christian media groups such as Pat Robertson's 700s Club, the organization published sensational story after sensational story to their audience of terrified parents. Through the mid-'80s, BAD would also have segments aired on 60 Minutes, Geraldo Rivera, and Oprah Winfrey's programs to spread the word of teenage occultists that were trying to corrupt their children. Through all of this, through the broader satanic panic, this was really bleeding into other forms of media. Rock and metal music were really big at this time, and they were frequent targets of the evangelical establishment. Two of the leading voices against this censorship, though, were Frank Zappa, who infamously has the only parental advisory notification sticker on an instrumental album, his album Jazz from Hell from 1986, and Dee Snider, the dude with the long hair, from the band Twisted Sister. Facing off with Congress in 1984, Snider had this to say.
I knew that they were, like everybody else, grossly underestimating me. I knew that they viewed me as just another dunderheaded rocker, and they would bring me in, make me look like a fool, and I would help their cause. They did not know that I could construct a sentence and speak English fluently. And I'm there in my cut-off denim, my skin-tight jeans, my snakeskin boots, and a little bit of eye makeup left underneath, and my big hair. And I ain't getting dressed up for nobody. I'm a dirtbag, and I'm proud. And I'm playing these people like, mentally I'm setting these guys up for the kill. I have got my speech in my back pocket, which I've worked on for a few weeks and honed and refined till it's a freaking nuclear weapon. Folded up like a gazillion times, like a bad kid bringing his homework to school, and I open it up and I'm flattening it out on the table, really deliberate, and they're going, oh man, this is a lamb being brought to the slaughter. And I start reading.
Since I seem to be the only person addressing this committee today who has been a direct target of accusations from the presumably responsible PMRC, I would like to use this occasion to speak on a more personal note and show just how unfair the whole concept of lyrical interpretation and judgment can be, and how many times this can amount to little more than character assassination.
And I am just tearing apart everything that they've accused me of, disproving beyond a shadow of a doubt that everything they've accused me of has been wrong, false, and they are scrambling. They were saying that Under the Blade was about sadomasochism and bondage. It was about my guitar player's throat operation.
It's not really a wild leap of the imagination to jump to the conclusion that that's about something other than surgery or hospitals, neither of which are mentioned in the song.
No, it's not a wild jump, and I think what I said in one part was that songs allow a person to put their own imagination, experiences, and dreams into the lyrics. People can interpret it many ways. Ms. Gore was looking for sadomasochism and bondage, and she found it. Someone looking for surgical references would have found it as well.
Yeah.
I said, I can't help that Tipper Gore's got a dirty mind, and Al Gore just, oh my God, he really jumped over the table. They were saying, we're not going to take it, what should be on the filthy 15 for violence, and it was no more violent than the Declaration of Independence.
The PMRC rated songs according to violence.
While the rockers were getting their licks against Al and Tipper Gore, the situation would become rather dangerous for Gary Gygax and his team. Again, a quote from Gary Gygax. In many ways, I still resent the wretched yellow journalism that was clearly evident in the media's treatment of the game. 60 Minutes in particular, I've never watched that show after Ed Bradley's interview with me because they rearranged all my answers. When I sent some copies of letters from mothers of those two kids who had committed suicide, who said the game had nothing to do with it, they refused to do a retraction or even mention it on air. What bothered me is that I was getting death threats, telephone calls, and letters. I was a little nervous. I had a bodyguard for a while. But the satanic panic would linger on in the minds of evangelicals into the 1990s. The next target for them was Magic the Gathering, a trading card game that contains a lot of the same contents. Known for being one of the most complex games ever created, Magic the Gathering has nearly 30,000 unique cards and almost 200 keyword abilities. So these are single words on the cards that you are just supposed to know. Very complex game. One of my favorites. I love it. And yes, I did use my D&D service to talk about Magic. That's how this happened. Okay, so the game centers around 5 colors, white, blue, black, and red and green, which are on the backs of the cards in a circle. I'll get to that here in a second. In Bedford, New York in 1995, the battle over demonic board games would go all the way to the Supreme Court. Lawyer and mother Mary Ann DeBari led a coalition of parents to sue the district for excusing their children to the occult through Magic the Gathering. In the case Altman versus Bedford Central School District, the parents argued that the use of the games for teaching lessons on math, language, and problem solving also included demonic incantations and pledging their souls to Satan. However, not everybody was on board with this. One anonymous parent would say on the lawsuit, "My son has been playing Magic the Gathering for a couple of years now, and it has been a positive influence on his life. He's made new friends, he's developed critical thinking and strategic skills, and even improved his math abilities. I don't see any reason to believe the game is harmful or promotes any kind of occult practices." The parents pointed out several issues that they had with the game. Again, we have the 5 points on the back of the card. Parents across the nation were drawing pentagrams on them. These darn kids and their pentagrams. But another issue that they had were a couple more cards that had pentagrams actually on them, but to show the evil nature of the card within the context of the game. So again, I said that this case would go all the way to the Supreme Court, but it would eventually be thrown out at every single level, much like the lawsuits against Dungeons and Dragons. So a lot of what I've discussed so far happened before I was even born. So now I would like to talk about a few more cases that are more recent, or kind of more recent. Everybody knows that I like tabletop game, but another passion of mine is Pokemon. I'm wearing a Pokemon shirt right now. In the late 90s, this Japanese game, anime, and trading card series became the fixation of millions here in the United States, but it also became the target of the Catholic Church. Reasoning for this can be broken down into 2 things. The game promotes evolution. As Pokemon, I'm being serious, as Pokemon level up, they evolve into bigger, stronger monsters. Okay, I get it. But their other connection, or the other thing that they shot their ire towards was the connection between these creatures supposedly to Japanese yokai, which are a genre of monsters and spirits and demons from Japanese folklore. More prominently than the whole Pokemon thing, there's Harry Potter. Though recent controversies have rocked this particular fan base, I do personally have fond memories of sharing these books with both friends and family. But the wave of anger against these books and movies when I was young absolutely baffled me. In the early 2000s, the book sparked a wave of controversy leading to bannings and book burnings. These were books that we read aloud as a family. Why would people want them banned? Unfortunately, it's pretty insidious. I stated before that moral panics are nothing new. For nearly 2,000 years now, the Jewish population have been accused of all sorts of things, from cannibalism, child sacrifice, magic practices, as a way to ostracize them from society. The ugly reality of all of these reoccurring satanic panics is it really boils down to anti-Semitism and xenophobia that is thrust upon society from the hegemony of the church. In order to maintain social dominance, Christians have spread the lie of the blood libel, conglomeration of rumors and conspiracies spread from clergy to commoner to inspire both fear of the other and a loyalty to the faith. Evangelicals today use this same tropes that have been used against the Jews for their conquests against them. You can see this from England in the English purges of Jews in the 1100s, all the way up to the Holocaust. So we are unfortunately seeing more and more of this as the rise of Christio-fascism in the United States is coming more to the forefront. As the power they desperately desire slips through their fingers, they lash out against seemingly anything and everything. The page I am about to show you tracks the innumerable targets that have been made by the religious right over the years. Just give that a little scroll down. Trust me, y'all, it is quite the list. It seems they have tried to cancel just about everything, from Ben & Jerry's and Bud Light to Walmart and Wells Fargo. At some time or another, periodically we see them burning Taylor Swift merchandise or smashing their coffee pots in a public showing of outrage. But often, little is actually done to harm the corporations that are behind the brands. To me, this performative indignation is a really embarrassing way to make a statement. But at the end of the day, cranks will be cranks. Anything that is fun will always have someone aiming to police it. Dungeons & Dragons has survived over 50 years and has become one of the most influential franchises to pop culture. Modern role-playing video games like The Legend of Zelda and Elder Scrolls wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Gary Gygax's early involvement. Without D&D, we wouldn't have things like Stranger Things, who they use the game and the monsters to tell the story in the show. While most will say it's just a game, it isn't to me. It isn't just a way for me to spend my time with my friends, but it is also a link that I share to a broader historical context. And it's a reminder to always fight for what you believe in. So again, before I go, I would like to invite everybody to today's session from 1 to 4 this afternoon. I will be available to answer any questions you have. I would like to teach the basics of the game, and we will be continuing our story that has been going on for almost 2.5 years now. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. Go seek your truth.